You're listening to Bring Me the Axe. I'm Brian White. I'm one half of this morbid equation, and I'm joined by my co-host and brother, Dave. Hey, Dave, how you doing over there?
Oh, boy. Thank you for asking. All right. So did you see any of those protests yesterday?
I saw, I saw some of them.
Some photographs? You didn't go to one, right?
No, they're, no, I had to work.
Ah, right. Gotcha. Yeah, it was crazy. There was a lot of people.
Yeah, I saw the one in Boston Common, and it was nuts.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
And then I saw side-by-side pictures, and it was like Boston and Chicago and New York. And it's like Boston, it's like a bunch of people. And then everywhere else is like, holy shit, that's a lot of people. And I was like, God, we're terrible at this.
I know. It's like, it's like a fucking protest in France or something.
Yeah. No, I didn't go. I didn't even know about it actually until I saw it on the TV.
You were like, oh, I should go down there. And then you're like,
No.
but I'm watching Italian movies.
I was watching it. I spent the whole day watching Italian movies. It was very difficult for me.
I'm sure you had a really hard time watching Italian movies.
Well, I don't have a hard time watching Italian movies. I had a hard time not doing work, not doing anything productive.
Yeah.
No, I protest in my own ways. I stop using Amazon and Target and such. That's more my speed.
Just
So,
a nice little economic
yeah, I feel
objection.
like that's where I can be more effective. You know, me shouting, I shout all the time. Nobody listens. So what good is this going to do?
No.
Off to a raucous start.
Nope, had to work. And then today I made the mistake of looking at my 401k. So,
I don't have one of those, but I assume it's not good.
no. I should not have looked. I should have heeded my instincts and not looked.
Well, is this because you invested in grain futures? To be honest, I don't even know what grain futures are. That's not true.
They said buy Tesla, and I was like, yes.
And you were like, woo, the one that blows up? Hell yeah.
Actually, I don't know.
It's like a fucking Hardee's commercial.
I don't think I have any holdings in Tesla.
Oh, you don't know? You don't get to choose, huh?
No, it's one of those things where it's just a fucking fund, and I'm sure that there's an advisor I could fucking call up and be like, get rid of that shit if I got it.
Like, put it all in Jewish space lasers.
Buy gold.
Yeah, I gotta bury it in my backyard. There it is. I'm coming back.
There you go. Oh, so we practically grew up in neighborhood video stores. The steady diet of utter garbage that those shops provided us with continues unabated to this day. And there's no one else I enjoy chopping it up with more about trashy movies than Dave. Though, tonight's movie is anything but trashy.
No.
Tonight's movie is lyrical and
Classy.
beautiful and gauzy.
Classy.
Yeah. Just before we get into it, here's a little housekeeping. If you want to keep up with us between episodes, you can also find us on Instagram at Bring Me the Axe Pod. Dave's over there at that queer wolf. Give us a follow, if you're doing that Instagram thing. And if you don't know, we have another show called 99 Cent Rental where we cover all manner of video store madness on the weeks when Bring Me the Axe is off. Our latest
That's decidedly less classy over there.
Right. If this episode and the next one makes you wonder, like, what the fuck is going on at Bring Me the Axe? Don't worry. We got you covered.
Still slumming it.
Yep. Our latest episode covering Walter Hill's magnificent flop, Streets of Fire, is out now, and we'll be back next week with a look at American Ninja.
Ooh, yikes.
It's going to be fun. You can also contact us directly at bringmetheaxepod@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or suggestions. Do let us know if there's a movie that you love, would like to hear us give it the business. And if you would like to support us on Patreon, you can look us up over there at patreon.com/bringmetheaxepod. There's a couple of tiers you can join. Subscribers at the $5 a month tier can look forward to our bi-weekly X-Files rewatch pod. Do you think I'm spooky? We got our monthly Bring Me the Axe Millennium Edition, which is a bonus episode in which we explore modern horror movie. Our latest is a look at Lake Mungo, the equally Australian. We're in a real Australian period right now.
Well, I will explain that when we get into the episode proper.
Yeah, because it doesn't end here. Because like after American Ninja, we got another Australian production coming up. So, yeah, tangentially, but yeah, we are up to our eyeballs in Australia. Yep. There's also my bi-weekly DJ show, Radio Free Haddonfield. Weeks when Do You Think I'm Spooky is off. You can expect a surprising mixtape of everything from rock to disco to punk over there. And also all Patreon subscribers, even the free tier, get access to our Discord server. Paying members get access to additional channels, voiced video chat, the watch parties option where, we get together, we watch a horror movie, usually the one that we're going to be discussing in the following Monday's episode. So, join up. $2 and up, you can watch movies with us. And
now, say here's a thing. If you want to just buy the Millennium Edition episode, I think that's available just for.
They are. Each one is available for like a one-time charge of $3.
And I'll tell you something else. I don't think there's anything wrong with people being like, "Hey, I'm just going to pay for this for a month, $5. Get in there, download all this shit, and then if they need to cancel it, you cancel it."
You can do that. Hey, times are tough. Don't look at your 401k.
Yeah, grain futures are down, man. I get it.
Buy gold. Buy war bonds.
Yeah. So if you need to do that, do that.
Yeah. Of course, if you want to hang in and be a sort of recurring member, we fucking love it.
No, I mean, definitely. If you can do that, that'd be nice.
If it is within your means and you think that we deserve it, God damn it.
Yeah.
We'd love it. Once again, patreon.com/bringmetheaxepod. Also, check the show notes for a link for the invite to the Discord server if you want to just drop in and shoot the shit with us. And also, show notes. We got a link to merch. Get yourself a t-shirt. Get yourself a hoodie for your favorite podcast.
Yeah, I'm working on a new t-shirt. It's hilarious.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube now. Search us by name and subscribe if you prefer to consume your podcast that way. And you'd be doing us a favor by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So do it. It's you know what? If you can't afford the Patreon, it costs you nothing. It costs you nothing but a few minutes of time just to give us a little rating, give us a little review on Spotify and Apple.
Yeah, and it's helpful. It's super helpful.
Super helpful. And if you listen on YouTube, do us a favor. Give the episode a like. Leave a comment. We love hearing from you guys. I just want to get that all the way right at the top of the show because get ready for some fucking pan flute, y'all.
Ooh.
Here's the trailer.
What we see and what we seem are but a dream within a dream.
Well, young ladies, we are indeed fortunate in the weather for our picnic to Hanging Rock. Once again, let me remind you, the rock itself is extremely dangerous. You are therefore forbidden any tomboy foolishness in the matter of exploration, even on the lower slopes. I also wish to remind you, the vicinity is renowned for its venomous snakes and poisonous ants of various species. It is, however, a geological marvel. That is all. Have a pleasant day, and try to behave yourselves in a manner to bring credit to the college.
Stopped at 12. Never stopped before. Must be something magnetic.
Everything begins and ends at exactly the right time and place. You must learn to love someone else apart from me. I won't be here much longer.
Ooh, boy.
Yeah.
That's a mystery.
It's
a mysterious mystery.
A mystery that drives a lot of people crazy, apparently.
I'm going to say this right up top. I think this might be one of the most beautifully shot movies I've ever seen.
I was thinking the same thing when I was watching it and like taking notes and everything. Every frame of this movie is a postcard. It is a goddamn beautiful movie from top to bottom, start to finish. You can't get enough of this movie's look. It is unbelievably beautiful.
Yeah. Like there are stunning moments where I was just like, holy shit. Just look at that.
Yeah.
Australia.
Because I don't necessarily regard the the Australian landscape as like a beautiful place. It's kind of a harsh, at least my experience of the continent through movies is always kind of harsh and intense. And I mean, there are like beautiful places, but it's mostly like brushland and fucking desert and shit.
Well, this was one of the movies that actually like started to change, specifically, I think, Americans' perceptions of what Australia looks like. Like this movie was the first time that people were like, oh, look at that. It's not just a vast wasteland.
Yeah. But also this is real early. Like, believe it or not, like this is a very early film in Australian film history. And it's in 1975.
Yeah, there was some stuff like in the 50s and 60s. Well, I think in the 30s, 40s, they did make movies, just not a lot of them. And they were very, very like regional.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like the 60s and then into the early 70s proper that they started making like big movies. And then even still, those movies didn't really get outside of Australia until after this movie, because this is the one that really kind of cracks the international market.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can credit Peter Weir for, breaking it open.
Good job, Peter Weir. Hell of a movie you made right here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was great. I kind of expected to struggle with this one a little bit.
Have you not seen this before?
I have not seen this one before. Ooh. I don't really know why.
So the reason I chose this is because we for Patreon did. I wanted to watch. The fuck is that movie called?
Mungo number 5.
Lake Mungo number 5. I wanted to do that, and I was like, you know what? Picnic at Hanging Rock is like an obvious influence on that movie, and I thought it would be interesting to watch them near each other and sort of look at like what is happening. And I'm not sure. I don't know that I had any expectations. I think that the influence is super obvious. But I don't think there's a lot of overlap. But at the same time, I think there kind of is. I'll get to it when we kind of get more into it. But the reason I chose this was like there is some pretty clear this movie influencing the guy who made Lake Mungo. And there's something about the how would I describe it? Like the atmosphere of the movie, the kind of aesthetic of the movies.
It's super dreamy.
Yeah.
And that's on purpose.
Yes. And in a way, the way that it draws on mythology or creates its own mythology, and in this case, really creates its own mythology. So that is why I chose these two. I wanted to sort of look at them kind of side by side, or at least close enough to one another. So here we are. It's not much of a horror movie, but it still kind of is.
I think that it is, just in a very unexpected way.
It's very unsettling at times.
That's really what it is. Not every horror movie has to be like all up in your shit and intense and excessive and gory and violent, or it's hard to really kind of put a finger on what it is about this movie that is that way. But I definitely think that this is a horror movie, or at least maybe more of a bit of a fantasy.
It's a little bit kind of like I feel like we struggled the same way to describe Ganja and Hess as a horror movie. It's like it's there, whatever it is, whatever it that makes it a horror movie is there. It's just kind of ineffable in a lot of ways. Like I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's there. Yeah.
Yeah. Shit. Let's get into this a little bit, shall we?
Okay.
All right. So the year was 1975. Year of our Lord. Hell of a year. 1975. That. So here were some other Australian movies that were released in 1975.
Stunt Rock, Stunt Rock, Stunt Rock.
Was Stunt Rock in 75?
No, I think it's a little bit later.
No, The Man from Hong Kong was released in 1975, which is Jimmy Wang Yu. He was the one-armed boxer in Hong Kong, and Australian filmmakers, I believe Brian Trenchard Smith was the one who kicked it off. I might be wrong about that one though, but they were hoping that he would be sort of like Australia's import in the same way that kind of like Bruce Lee crossed over.
Weird.
Yeah. And so they're kind of like James Bond-ish, but they're really not good. And apparently he was a massive, gigantic asshole.
Wow. Yeah, it's hard to replicate Bruce Lee because in addition to being just sort of like an okay actor, he was very charming. And he just sort of had it.
He had the gravitas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Also in 75, a movie called Sidecar Racers.
That sounds bad.
It's about motorcycle races.
I stand by that.
Yep. And get ready. The True Story of Eskimo Nell came out in 1975.
That sounds like it's going to be racist as hell.
I vaguely remember the title from Not Quite Hollywood. Which if you're listening to this, watch that documentary. It fucking rules.
It won't help you with this movie, but
No. I believe it gets mentioned in that one, but Not Quite Hollywood is really more about the exploitation industry that sort of arose from the sort of Australian New Wave.
because there's some weird shit that comes out of the Australian New Wave. I mean, predominantly by Peter Weir, he made a bunch of weird fucking movies, and then he was like, okay, why don't we just go make normal movies in Hollywood now?
Yeah. Yeah. We also had Inn of the Damned.
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a no from me, dog.
And rounding it out, Assault on Agathon.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's like a war. It's like I believe it's like a World War I era war movie.
Not my speed.
Nah. As Dave mentioned, our director is a guy named Peter Weir, who's one of the best known directors of the Australian New Wave, who, along with Brian Trenchard Smith and George Miller, this guy crossed over. He started out with...
I would argue Peter Weir was more successful by miles than those two.
Well, Brian Trenchard Smith never really broke out of Australia, but if you're a fan of Australian exploitation movies, you probably have really warm and fuzzy feelings about a lot of his movies. Like, I love the crap that he makes.
Stunt Rock.
Did he make Stunt Rock? Look
Yeah,
up
he made
Stunt Rock right now.
It's a fucking great movie. He made it.
No shit. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to give you that then. BMX Bandits was one of his. Turkey Shoot is another one. Turkey Shoot is unbelievable garbage. And Steve Railsback like fucking hates Brian Trenchard Smith because he made that movie with him. But wow. Yeah. I love that one. It's so it's such trash. It's such unbelievable trash. Peter Weir on the other hand. Oh yeah. Also George Miller. George Miller made fucking Mad Max and all of the Mad Max movies. Road Warrior, Beyond the Thunderdome, fucking Fury Road. Also Happy Feet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta mix it up.
Yep.
Have a little fun.
But no, Peter Weir, he made Gallipoli, which is the World War I movie with Mel Gibson, The Year of Living Dangerously, which I believe also has Mel Gibson. He made Witness, Dead Poets Society, The Truman Show.
Nope.
Yeah, just to name a few.
But before that, he also made
The Cars That Ate Paris, which I watched the other night and fucking love.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
It's that one is made 1974. It was made the year before this, which is the craziest switch up that I think I've ever seen. Because
he goes from that to this, and then right after this, he makes the Last Wave, the movie about where he's like it's about a lawyer who's like defending wrongfully accused Aboriginal people. It's like it is breakneck changes of gear for him, and they all sort of launch him progressively further into the public sphere, the international public sphere. Because this movie actually it was very well received. Well, sort of well received. Critically, like the movie itself is. The story has a lot of people have problems with it. But it wasn't until The Last Wave that this one made it to the US.
Oh, no shit. Okay. Yeah. But Cars That Ate Paris is basically a mix up of Dead and Buried and Mad Max, the first one.
Yeah, I would say that is exactly what it is. And I love both of those movies, and thus I love Cars That Ate Paris.
Two great tastes that taste great together. In the 2010s, Weir had a number of projects in development that just kind of withered on the vine. He seemed to vanish from filmmaking entirely with no official word on a retirement. And then I guess in the last couple of years, he was like, oh yeah, no, don't worry about it. I'm finished. Thanks for all the good times. I
mean, at this point, he's probably quite old.
I would imagine, yeah.
He's probably in his mid-70s, late 70s.
Yeah. There's a funny quote from Ethan Hawke in a Newsweek article that I read, where it's from several years back, where he speculates that working with Johnny Depp on some unmade movie took the enthusiasm for movies out of him.
Wow. I mean, I get it though. I wouldn't want to work with Johnny Depp either.
Oh, I know. So our cast includes a bunch of Australian ladies.
Yep, people you probably never heard of.
Probably
I've only heard of one of them.
And most of them didn't really do anything after this, except
That's because most of them weren't actors.
yeah. We've got let's see, we got Rachel Roberts, who plays Miss Appleyard, who's the sort of harsh headmistress. And yeah, she stopped acting in like 1982.
Well, she's a little bit older too. But she was in like Murder in the Orient Express, and she's in When a Stranger Calls. That's the only thing I've ever seen her in.
Yep. She's also in Charlie Chan and the Curse of the Dragon Queen, which was the Charlie Chan cast with a white guy with his eyes pulled back movie that they made in 1981.
Yikes.
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned that one in episodes past.
To be fair to them, all of the Charlie Chan movies are that, but they weren't made in the 80s.
No. The fact that they were still doing that in the 80s is just heinous. I mean,
I
it's
watched
heinous
one
that
the
they were
other
doing
day.
it in the first place, but
I watched a Charlie Chan movie the other day, and on Tubi, and before the movie comes up, like a disclaimer comes up that warns you, like, this was made at a time before cultural sensitivity, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, that is hilarious.
yeah. Oh, God. We got Anne Louise Lambert, and she plays the sort of enigmatic Miranda in this, who's sort of at the front of everybody's mind in this movie. And like, this is she's still an actress, and she still works. I mean, primarily in Australian productions. This is the movie that she is probably sort of most recognized for. And she really does, for a character who's only in the movie for about a third of it, she makes an impression.
She does. She's a fairly decent actor for someone who's not had much experience. She is also like disarmingly attractive.
Yeah, she's very beautiful. And I mean, that is obviously why they picked her over any sort of acting ability. But yeah, this was not her first thing that she did. She'd done some Australian TV before this, but this was her like real breakout role. And then rounding it out, we got Margaret Nelson, who plays Sarah in this. And yeah, after this, she didn't really do anything.
Nope. The only other person that I am familiar with in this is Jackie Weaver. She plays Minnie.
Yeah.
And she's in like
the house help,
now.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I recognized her. I looked her up because her face looked very familiar to me. Mm-hmm. And I've seen her in a couple of things, but I can't remember anything recent.
She was in The Disaster Artist recently. She was in Bird Box.
Yeah.
She was, I don't know if did you see Zeroville?
No.
The movie is fucking terrible. The book, on the other hand, is incredible. Everybody should read it. But yeah, she was in those.
All right. But yeah, this is just our typical international audience. I don't want to cut these people short. Like many of them in this cast have, long running careers in acting and stage and shit. But let's
be honest. No, we have never heard of them, and neither have most of you. So what's the point?
Right. But yeah, I mean, most of them, they make it work. They make it happen. Though I guess a lot of them had their voices dubbed.
Yeah, so the deal was he wanted, Peter Weir wanted like young and sort of naive looking girls, like very innocent kind of people that, the way that they kind of phrased it is like, like farm girls is kind of, I'm paraphrasing, but like that's basically what they meant. It's like, people from the sticks,
right?
who aren't worldly. And so they went and got a bunch of those from like, I don't fucking know where that would be in Australia, but somewhere. And they turned out they weren't good actors. So they had them read the lines, but he ended up cutting a lot of that because it didn't sound good. And then for the stuff that he couldn't cut, he got a bunch of like voice actors to do the dubbing.
Yeah.
So you can tell there are certain parts where like, I think what is her name? Miriam? Is that her name?
Which one?
She's the one who goes up with them, but doesn't. She runs back.
Oh, that's Edith.
She's one of the ones that gets dubbed.
Oh, gotcha.
You can tell because
I would imagine some of like the dialogue and the exteriors and stuff like that, like stuff that takes place outside. Like they probably looped that as well, just because it's notoriously very hard to record audio outside.
Yeah, so that's why it's like you don't see them in much because they weren't actors. Yeah. They were just innocent ladies, just normal ladies,
just innocent ladies. Yeah, we got a couple of taglines. One of them's real fucking funny. So here we go. Here's one. On St. Valentine's Day in 1900, a party of girls set off for a picnic at Hanging Rock. Some were never to return. Tells you what you need to know.
That's the one. That's like
It baits the hook for you. And then here's the one that was from a fucking UK poster. A recollection of evil.
I'm sorry, what? I saw that one and I was like, where's the evil?
Where's the evil? Yeah.
I mean, there's everybody. There's no evil in this movie.
There's implications and,
There's implications. That's all you're going to get in this movie.
They are vague implications of shit that's up to no good. But fucking Christ. Yeah, UK poster really overselling this movie. Just let it sail on its own merits, man. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, and I mean, this really is a movie that lives and dies by the visuals.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, the acting is fine, but there's no standouts. There's nothing like that. It's just like, it is a beautiful movie. It is a mysterious movie, and it is a vibe, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But it is a very, very good vibe.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. God, I can't say enough good things about the way this movie looks. Like, it is very hard. Cause I watched The Cars That Ate Paris like on Friday night, and then I watched this on Saturday night, and the fucking difference in the way that these movies are shot, the way that these movies are presented could not be any different. Like The Cars That Ate Paris.
Shot by the same guy. Yeah. Shot by the same person. The same guy worked with him on everything.
I hope that motherfucker like is rich as hell and like lives on an island with like a fucking skull carved out of a volcano or something.
I mean, he probably did fine. His name is Russell Boyd. He worked on pretty much all of these movies with like up to the 90s with Peter Weir. He did Liar Liar. He did Crocodile Dundee. Like anything that was shot in the 80s with a big budget in Australia was him. He did Ghost Rider, the shitty Nicolas Cage movie. So he still works. I think that like he's fine. He's doing fine.
Yeah. Good God, man. What a talented guy. Because again, like The Cars That Ate Paris, I enjoy it, but it is an ugly movie. And that's probably
and it's supposed to be. Yeah. Like you were not supposed to find it. It's like, the movie, there's a just before the Australian New Wave kicked off. You ever seen Wake in Fright?
Yes. Oh,
it is
God.
It is like that. Upsetting movie. Yeah. But yeah, it is a little bit like that. It's not quite. Wake in Fright, I think, is supposed to be very brutal looking.
It's definitely that to match the vibe of that movie. If you've never seen it, it is mostly about a guy just going insane from desperate alcoholism.
Yes, and like really, really like cartoonishly toxic masculinity. And it just if you're like, oh, that sounds like an interesting movie to me, be aware there is a very, very horrible animal death in it that is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
Shit.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. So this movie is adapted from a 1967 novel by Joan Lindsay. Did you know it was not published here until 2014?
I find that surprising, but I did know that. I learned that today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Yeah. She put this together from like a lot of ideas for it came from her own dreams, which makes so much sense.
Yeah. She said she had like gone there a couple of times and like she had read a little bit about it. And then she was having dreams about a place that was very similar to it. And they were like a series of dreams. And so she kind of cobbled it all together, which is why it feels I've never read the book, but the movie, which I believe is very faithful to the book, is very dreamlike in its way. It's like, it's a lot of not unconnected scenes, but scenes that don't necessarily need to be connected.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way that the movie does kind of go along is it just sort of has a flow where shit happens and there is a kind of a thread of a plot that goes through, but as we'll explain, nothing is ever really resolved. And even like little scenes and vignettes in the movie just are presented. They're related to one another in the sense that they all kind of have common characters and the sort of scenarios are all kind of vaguely connected, but like everything very much feels like that sort of like when you're in a dream and you sort of like you start to remember it in the morning and you're like, yeah, and then I was at the White House, and the next thing I knew, I was driving in a car in Boston. Like it has that kind of weird flow to it.
And remarkably, for the most part, that works. I think there are a couple of plot elements that just don't work. They come to sort of like a thudding, screeching halt.
Yeah.
because you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, and the book, because the book was very popular. It sold very well in Australia. But it had a very weird effect on the actual location of Hanging Rock, because Hanging Rock's a real place.
Yes.
It is. It's in
much like in Lake Mungo. Lake Mungo is a real place, and they both of them have sort of a weird mythology that's been built around them
because of the movies.
Yeah, or because of more recent activities. It's not like this is a mysterious ancient place. It's more like people have decided that it is recently.
Yeah, like when I was looking up like Hanging Rock specifically, I found an article from fucking Vice that was like the truth about the events at Hanging Rock. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well, we should also say that when the book came out, it was very intentionally marketed as though it was a true story.
Yeah.
And so is the movie. And that was intentional. And most people still think it is. Even though, like, if you Google anything, it is explicit that it is not. It's based on fiction.
Right. Because, like, I mean, there are places like that do have these sort of like this sort of very sort of mystical vibe about, like, Mount Shasta in California has actual like a weird reputation, and there are actual like disappearances of people who've never been recovered and have completely disappeared without a trace up there.
On that note, I do have a couple of things, and I will contextualize all of this in a minute. Because Hanging Rock is like I guess it's a relatively newer formation.
Something like 6 million years ago is
like in the grand scheme of things, it was a volcano.
Yep.
And, after it erupted, it kind of like fell into place and made its formations and whatever. And so it became a popular vacationing spot, and really like a day trip kind of place. Like it's that kind of place where you go and hike.
Establishing shots in this, like it is really, it is an eruption of stone in an otherwise flat environment.
Yeah.
And
so prior to colonization, it was supposedly the site of like male initiation rituals for like local native inhabitants. I didn't get into that because I don't want to get into that because I don't like when white people try to redefine that. And it is neither here nor there. But after that, once it became kind of a day tripping location, so in 1901, there was a guy who went there. His name is James Flight. He went there with his family and like for a picnic and day trip. And he and his kids were, climbing the rocks like they do in the movie. And it got a little difficult. Like, it gets a little dangerous at a certain point. So he like tells them to go back. And the next time they see him, he has fallen 60 feet and he is dead on the ground. And when they like go through, I don't know why you would go through a dead person's pockets, but when they did, his pocket had been cut out and his money was gone. He had like $1,500 in his pocket, which like, hey man, 1901, you got that much fucking money on you? Of course someone's going to rob you and kill you. I probably would.
That's wild.
So you got that. A year later, some picnickers found a 6-year-old boy wandering around the area alone in a total daze. His face was covered in blood from a wound on his forehead and a broken nose. And when they like cleaned him up and kind of like, looked him over, he had no idea what had happened to him. But he had injuries like scraping and scratch injuries that had been caused with a sharp instrument. I think you know what happened there, but we'll let it lie. A couple years later, another murder at the Rock where someone was arrested. A 19-year-old was arrested for just randomly killing someone else there. And so then
what year was that?
That's 1907. So it's just a couple years later.
Huh.
And so it's just like shit like that happens over time. Now, that might sound spooky in this context, but if you zoom out a little bit, shit like that happens everywhere. You have a place where there are lots of people. People do terrible or unscrupulous things.
Especially if you're waving $1,500 around.
Yeah, seriously. On a fucking cliff ledge. I mean, it probably wouldn't have looked a little less suspicious if you didn't cut his pocket out, but yeah, it's like these places tend to sound spooky when we describe them in this context, especially in the context of this larger fantasy narrative or horror narrative. But really, when you look at them, they're no different than anywhere else. It's like this shit happens all over the place. Ted Bundy had to kidnap women from somewhere. Like that's just kind of, you got to go where people are, and public locations is where people are. So when we do, it's always important to like be like, oh yeah, that's right. This stuff happens all the time. It's kind of like with haunted houses, and people are like, so and so died here. And it's like, yeah, people die everywhere.
Right.
This is how it works. Just people, they got to die somewhere.
Right.
And it used to be in your house.
People be like, well, this house is haunted. I'd be like, yeah, listen. How come there's like no cavemen ghosts hanging around?
Yeah. It's always Victorian ghosts and Civil War era ghosts. Or like, oh, and there's a cemetery up back. It's like, yeah, because people used to bury their family in the yard because that's what you did.
Yeah.
That's just where you put them. You got to save the dead people for some reason.
Yep.
So that's the thing. And now it's still like a pretty popular day spot. It's like a regional, it's in Victoria, Australia.
Yep. Southeastern state. So like on the underside of Australia.
And so now it gets used as like, they do a lot of events there. So they do
there's a Victorian reenactment group.
There's a picnic at Hanging Rock costume contest. And there's mostly they use it for like music, like big performances.
It's a little bit like Red Rocks in that way.
Yeah. So that is kind of its history. They make it sound super spooky and mysterious. It's not. It's just that. It's
I mean, it doesn't help that it is a very imposing sort of like geological formation.
Yeah.
Like I said, in an otherwise like flat surrounding, like there's no other like mountains or hills in this area for like fucking miles. It's just like this outcropping of stone that just like literally erupted from the earth one day.
Mm-hmm. And then just dingoes eating your baby.
Eating babies all over
Left
the place.
and right.
Yeah, it goes by a couple of different names. It was also known as Dryden's Rock. And the Aboriginal Australians, a Jaja Wurrung. God, I hope I'm saying that right.
Wow. I was like, I'm not even going to try that one.
Yeah. Woiwurrung.
So good on you.
Tongarung. They call it, and I'm going to fucking butcher this. I believe it's called Ngunalung.
You pause like I'm going to correct you.
Well.
Actually.
I was just waiting for your remark.
I don't have one. I saw all of these and was like, fuck no, I'm not going to try that.
Yep. But I did it.
You did. And I applaud you. You gave it your all. And, if there are any...
I probably failed horribly. And to anybody who is like, holy shit,
any
what the fuck?
Aboriginal Australians listening, we're sorry.
Terribly sorry. I'm trying to do right. So yeah, much like Canada's tax shelter period, Australia experienced a similar period of government funding and development in 1970, which is about when the tax shelter period in Canada started. Mm-hmm. After like a little over a decade of just total stagnation, to a point where it was said that there, like any sort of film and television industry was almost like just completely gone. Like,
it's
like none whatsoever.
It's like I think England's television industry went through a period like that. Obviously, it bounced back pretty quickly, but there was like nothing. No cultural output.
Nope. And then state and federal governments just like aggressively funded film schools. They have the Australian Film, Television, Radio School. They started aggressively funding movie productions, television productions, and music, I believe.
Yeah. Go figure. When you do that shit, you end up with some real cultural treasures. Like you see it everywhere. You see it in Canada. You see it in Mexico. You see it fucking everywhere.
Yep.
Like just
who knew if you throw money at art happens and good shit happens, because it's not just.
And then people want to come there to see the art you've made.
Yeah. And it's not just that, because also when you're done with it, all of a sudden there's an entire industry, a whole shitload of people who know how to do this stuff where there were none before. And so now you've got a real proper fucking TV and movie industry.
Which is why Canada has such a booming TV and movie industry.
Yeah. Yeah. The end result of this experiment was 400 films made between 1970 and 1985, more than had ever made in the history of Australian film prior.
Wow.
Yeah. The vast majority of them were bonkers exploitation movies, but the main body of work embodied by Peter Weir and George Miller had a uniquely Australian visual language about it.
We also get Nicholas Roeg out of this group.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He's a little bit older than them, but he comes from there too.
Russell Mulcahy, I also want to mention, because like he eventually gets into movies, but we have him to thank for basically half of the like early MTV era videos. Like all the shit that you remember. That guy
Yeah, but
made
like, I mean, like Nicholas Rogue, though, Russell Mulcahy left. Like he went to,
he went to
New
England,
York.
but I mean, he was a product of this,
Yep.
of this thing. Like he went to the school, and he left because like the England is where all the fucking new wave and like new pop music was happening.
Yep.
Yep. And so an example of how heavily invested the Australian government was in funding their own film industry. This movie was made on a budget of $440,000, and of that budget, only $3,000 came from private investors.
Damn.
That's a lot of fucking like state and federal money.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And as we're getting down to it, the pan flute.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the instrument is called a nai, but we're gonna call it a pan flute. Listen,
Look, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna make this bold declaration up top. The soundtrack to this movie does not work. It's the one aspect of the movie where I'm like, get this shit out of there.
Parts of it that are so good, and it's all this sort of non-diegetic shit, the spooky stuff. But when
which is made by somebody else,
when that fucking pan flute comes up, it's like, oh my god!
Oh, you mean the pan flute that is performed by Georgi Zamfir,
master of the pan flute,
Georgi Zamfir?
Yeah, listeners of a certain age will definitely know that. Just if me saying Zamfir, master of the pan flute, you know exactly what I'm fucking talking about. I'm going to play a clip of it right here because it's going to be fucking funny.
You've heard his hauntingly beautiful music in movies, on radio and TV. He's sold over 20 million records round the world. His name is Zamfir, master of the pan flute, that magical instrument with the unforgettable sound. Now in his magnificent all-new collection, Zamfir plays the world's most beautiful melodies.
Holy shit. If you watched afternoon TV circa 1990, you definitely saw the ads for like all of the Zamfir's greatest pan flute hits. And it's this dude just enthusiastically wailing on the pan flute, playing songs like Danny Boy and like American Songbook shit.
Yeah, if it wasn't that, it was Victor Borgia's greatest hits, 4-disc greatest hits collection.
Right, and it came on no less than like 6 CDs or 6 compact discs and like 12 cassettes.
And 10-year-old me is like, who the is Victor Borgia?
Me over here, Zamfir, who the fuck is this guy? Yep. This movie is considered one of the greatest Australian films of all time. Actually, it is considered the greatest Australian film of all time by the Australian Film Institute.
And I get it. I have not seen a lot of Australian movies, but the ones that I have seen, I will say this is head and shoulders better.
Holy shit. This is operating on an entirely different level. But also, it doesn't help that most of the Australian movies I've watched are exploitation movies.
Yeah, for me, it's like this, Summer Heights High, and then Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Fucking Mad Max. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert actually comes from a second wave of Australian film.
With Meryl's Wedding. Yep. Was also from that.
Yep. But yeah. And this was also adapted as a 6-part miniseries for Amazon.
Yeah, I think I watched a little bit of it and was like, man, fuck this.
I saw, like, I know nothing about it. I'd never even heard of it before. It's got Natalie Dormer in it. And apparently it reviewed really well, but like 6 parts, man. I mean, the novel's not even that long.
This movie is about an hour and 45 minutes, and it does drag a little bit. It saves itself because it is so beautiful to look at, but I can't imagine 6 parts. It's not that fucking mysterious.
No, and I'm very cynical about these things, but like a movie like this could never be fucking made in the current sort of studio climate.
It wouldn't be good. It could be made. It just wouldn't be good.
It would be, well, what I mean by that is in this format, this movie would just not exist because there would be 10,000 studio executives going, yeah, but where'd the girls go? And like, what's the mystical, magical thing happening at Hanging Rock? There'd be so much.
As it turns out, there were 10,000 people going, yeah, but where'd the girls go?
Right. It was one of the movie's biggest fucking problems. So, yeah, what did as far as the press was concerned, what did the press think of this?
So it's a little bit, it's hard to describe. So on one hand, some people loved it and a lot of people did not, but there's a story that Peter Weir tells where they were in a industry screening of it, before it came out, and some guy was so upset by the end of it that he threw his coffee cup at the screen and yelled something about how he had wasted 2 hours of his life on this nonsense.
Yeah, relax, dude.
And so that is one of the things that, unfortunately, everybody going into it at this point, you will probably know that that's going to be the case. That this is a story that does not resolve itself. You are left with a fuckload of ambiguity and nothing but that. But I think that sort of ruins a little bit of it. I would have liked to have ended that way.
I think the mystery at the center of this movie is a gigantic red herring.
I don't. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but I don't think it's a red herring. I think it's, well, never mind. I'm going to start with the
okay, because it is not, even though it's the sort of inciting event, it is not what the movie is about.
No. Yeah. So I was able to dig up some contemporary ones from Australia. So this is Helen Frizzell from the Sydney Morning Herald. The film haunts the mind like a dream, gives clues and withdraws them. Do not expect, when you see it, that you will be able to discover what happened. Still, this is the best Australian film I've ever seen, and the most unusual in its distillation of youth, summer, and tragedy. That's pretty solid. It says all those things are true.
Yeah.
Here we have Colin Bennett, The Age. The Age is kind of like their New York Times. I see Picnic at Hanging Rock as a fresh film, absolutely in its own right, and despite its calculated beauties, its ambiguities and ambivalences, not too consciously art, that's in scare quotes, for its own good. Cars That Ate Paris earned Weir and his producers a good deal of mention overseas, but Picnic could well put them on the map internationally and bring them the audiences they need and deserve. And it did.
Okay, yeah.
So a couple years later, after The Last Wave came out, it makes its way to the US and the UK. Actually, I think it made it to the UK a little bit earlier, but it made its way to the US by like 79. So Vinnie Canby, New York Times. I'm not sure that Mr. Weir has succeeded in evoking his dream within a dream without using one or two red herrings that are absolutely necessary. But because the film has a hypnotic spell, I accept its excesses, as the result is a movie that is both spooky and sexy. I would challenge that it is not a sexy film. It is a sexual film, but it is not a sexual
movie for sure. But sexy, I don't know.
Now, here we've got my girl Sheila Benson, who I think is becoming my favorite movie critic of all time, because she is, again, feeling herself. Sheila Benson, LA Times. What Weir does provide is sensuous mystery and the most ravishing images since Days of Heaven.
Ooh, give it to me.
For many, that will be enough. The panicking girls flung about the Eden-like landscape.
Oh, pour it on me.
Like exquisite laundry. Nothing so sexy like exquisite laundry. The arcane delight of settings like the Temple of Calisthenics and the rocks themselves. Hanging Rock is for sensualists.
Oh,
for the
shit.
Unquestioning for life's astigmatics. They will have a perfectly sumptuous time.
Yeah, you can't see me over here. I'm fanning myself.
The only thing better than reading Sheila Benson's review is if I had Kate Bush reading Sheila Benson's review for me. It is a sensuous, sumptuous time for everyone, like exquisite laundry.
What a review. I couldn't even tell you. Did she like this movie?
She did. She did, but she was also like, but also, what the fuck? When I die, I hope it is by being flung about the Eden-like landscape like exquisite laundry.
Is she still alive?
How I hope to go. I think so.
I want her to write. I want her to write my fucking eulogy.
She writes all of the best. I can't remember the other one we watched, but it had like it might have been the Cemetery Man one, where she was just like, but also, how about that Rupert Everett, right? I mean, look at him. Who else could watch it? But I couldn't pay attention to the rest of the movie. The guy was dripping wet half the time. Girl.
What a fucking rad review.
So,
that's the thing is, listen, reviewers, you gotta throw that spice in there. And I mean, don't just spice your shit up. I mean, pour that shit in there.
Yeah, if you want to learn how to be a great reviewer, go back and read the LA Times and the New York Times from like 1947 to 1972.
Oh.
All right, we're gonna close it out with Raj because he loves this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard its ending described as inconclusive. It is. And frustrating. Ditto.
Nah.
But why not? Do we want a rational explanation? Arrest and trial for vagabond kidnappers, an autopsy revealing broken necks, poisonous snakes named as culprits. If this film had a rational and tidy conclusion, it would be a good deal less interesting. But as tantalizing puzzle, a tease, a suggestion of a forbidden answer just out of earshot, it works hypnotically and very nicely indeed. You know, I'll give it to Raj.
I think
he was a good writer.
He actually zeroes in on what it is that I like about the story that much.
Yeah, you don't need, if having an explanation for any of this would ruin it.
Exactly. Because again, it's not about the fucking mystery.
Stupid. Do you know what it would be? It would be fucking Watcher in the Woods.
Yeah.
And actually there was a sort of explanation for this. There was a chapter in the original story that was cut out.
Okay.
And it doesn't quite explain what happened, but it sort of very heavily suggests that they like fall into a sort of rift in time. And that's just sort of what happened.
Yes.
Which I think is kind of stupid.
I'm glad it got cut because
so she cut it out.
It doesn't fucking need that.
Nope.
You can think about like it allows you to sort of pin whatever the fuck you want on. I don't even bother because like I said, it's not about that.
Their disappearance is a bit of a MacGuffin.
Yeah, it is. This is about how everybody else is sort of reflecting because you're going to ultimately sort of reflect the characters' sort of preoccupation with the mystery, the frustration that they all feel, and the fact that like they get no answers and like, and then as time goes on, shit just gets more mysterious. So yeah.
I'm going to make my declaration up front. I think this movie is about the difference between who can live with uncertainty and who can't.
That's good. Yeah. I'll give you that
because it has got a hard ending that you really don't see coming.
Right. Yeah. So do you want to talk about that now?
I think I have just about covered it all. So let us go.
Okay, here we go. We open on a title card, which informs us that on Saturday, the 14th of February, 1900, a party of schoolgirls from the Appleyard College had a picnic at Hanging Rock in the state of Victoria. During the afternoon, several girls disappeared without a trace.
There's a great comment on IMDb. In the trivia section.
Well, actually, that wasn't a Saturday.
Yes, it's that one. It's the one that's like, well, it really wasn't a Friday. Actually, if you'll just look at a calendar, it was a Wednesday. So clearly, it was very unlikely. I'm like, what's the fucking difference between a Saturday, a Friday, and a Wednesday?
Hey, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Shut up. Nobody cares.
Nobody asked you, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Sit down. Enjoy the goddamn movie. It's on Criterion for a reason.
Oh. Sumptuous. It's sumptuous. It's in the collection.
It is fucking exquisite laundry if I have ever seen it.
And the detail about the date is vital to this whole thing.
Yes. Because
it is peak Victoriana.
Yeah.
And so there are attitudes about how young women are to behave, how to present themselves, how to dress, and that is central to all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's going to, I think that is a very good point because the era that it takes place in is an era of kind of big change, just globally, but also like the kind of regency, the aristocracy is starting to sort of wane in their influence, especially in Australia, where they're starting to gain more independence because they were obviously under British rule for a very, very long time. And that's starting to fall apart, and that is in itself quite destabilizing for older people.
Yeah. It's the age of steam.
Yeah.
Like a lot of industrialization is happening. You wouldn't know it based on this, but like all of the girls in this school, they're first of all, they're not Australian. They're all European. Mostly
pretty much
English.
Everybody in the movie is European.
Yeah. And actually the Australian people that you do see are sort of portrayed as like lower class.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that because I think that's one of the areas where it doesn't quite deliver.
Okay. So we cut to a shot of the Appleyard College as a voiceover tells us that what we see and what we seem is but a dream within a dream.
And then fucking cue that hard pan flute.
So give me that pan flute.
You've heard?
Yes, the Master Zamfir coming in hot.
Yeah, but also that is not the quote. That's an Edgar Allan Poe quote. That is just
it's
what
a
we
little
see
bit of a
and what we
misquote.
seem is but a dream. The dream within a dream is like deliberately added, and I think that also sort of plays into sort of my idea here about how we as people viewing this movie are also kind of a reflection of the things that are happening, like our attitudes towards the mystery and the frustrations of the characters and their fixations and obsessions.
But yeah, the way that this movie makes you a part of the movie is fucking insane. It is so exquisitely done.
Exquisite laundry.
Oh my God, sumptuously done. God damn.
Young women wake up in the morning and get ready for the day. They happily read sonnets by Shakespeare, some of their own poetry. They're really into poetry here.
A little shaky poetry.
A little shaky. They also tie up each other's corsets.
It's weird. It's the way that it looks.
It is very, very, I will say it right now, it's very alluring. And it shouldn't be, because these are teenage girls.
Well, it shouldn't be, and it should be. It is intentional, but it shouldn't be. Like, you are getting there's an intimacy in all of these scenes.
Crossed over, mixed with like a playfulness as well.
Yes. So they're all probably, I think they're supposed to be like 16, 15, 16, 17, around there. And so there's this idea that, and this is a huge part of the story, that they are kind of becoming adults, awakening to their sexuality. And so the viewer is kind of taken into the bedroom with them. And everything is shot very tight. They're all very tight shots. They're very close up. A lot of
very deliberate framings of not the girls, but reflections of the girls in mirrors and stuff.
And how they're all sort of watching each other. It's very...
It's minor league sapphic.
Yeah, it implies a sort of childlike homosexuality. I don't love that because I think that is it was a kind of a popular thing in the mid 20th century where like homosexuality is kind of framed as a stunted emotional thing rather than like just a variation. It sort of presents it as like you'll grow out of it, and that's kind of what's implied here rather than you've just taken a bunch of adolescents and put them all together in one place. Of course they're going to be fucking each other. It doesn't matter if they're gay.
Right.
But like we're given all of this access to them very intimately. Like they're washing their face, but they're washing their face in like a basin that is also full of flowers.
Yep.
There's all this, so that it's this weird almost dichotomy between like the childlike understanding of love or romance, which they're very much obsessed with, and the very real kind of nascent sexuality of them as people. And those two things are really clashing very, very hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're just sort of there to watch it because they are obsessed with romance, like obsessed with
romance. We're going to hear a lot about it.
Yeah.
So now Miranda sings to herself while brushing her hair. And Miranda is a very beautiful girl.
Yeah, like stunning, like alarmingly attractive, like gorgeous in a very off-putting way.
Yeah. While her, I believe, roommate maybe, or just maybe it's just a friend.
Well, I mean, if it was the 70s, we'd call her a roommate.
Quote unquote roommate.
Yeah, her friend, you mean?
Yeah. While Sarah looks on and she tells Sarah that she has to love someone else because she'll be leaving soon.
Yeah, she says, I won't be here much longer. But even when she says it, it doesn't come across as like a rebuff of Sarah's love, because Sarah is, what we will come to understand a little bit later, is that Sarah is quite literally in love with her.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's safe. We can presume that she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like actually in love with her. But she basically says, you need to find someone else to be in love with because I won't be here much longer. And it's not her saying, I can't be in a relationship with you. It's her. It's like the line in Lake Mungo when she says something is coming. So, like that opening line is like, it hasn't happened yet.
It's an omen is what it is.
Like it is a premonition is what she is speaking, much like Alice's premonition in Lake Mungo. And that sort of kicks it off in this way.
Oh shit. Yeah. Now, I'm definitely seeing the parallels between those two movies now. Yeah, listener, if you haven't listened to our Lake Mungo episode and you're tantalized, you don't want to subscribe to the full Patreon. $3. I recommend it. If you like this movie, you're gonna like that movie.
Or just if nothing else, do yourself a favor. Watch Lake Mungo. It's worth a watch. It's a good movie.
It definitely is.
But also right before that, we see Sarah. I think she's it's like a flower press.
Yes, she's pressing flowers.
And my note is that a flower press is some real sophisticated technology in 1900.
Yeah. So now we cut to the girls all running down the steps to leave for their picnic. And one of the school staff intercepts Sarah and informs her that she won't be going with the girls.
Because she's a wicked lesbian.
She's an orphan.
And a lesbian.
They gather on the lawn at the foot of the steps, waiting for Mrs. Appleyard or Miss Appleyard, the headmistress, who tells them how it's going to go. She warns.
Hey, quick question about Miss Appleyard.
What's up with that hair?
Is it a wig? Mrs. Appleyard's bumpet is on point. It looks like Mars Attacks is like.
It is perfect. It is immaculate.
Like someone put a bicycle pump in there and just a couple of rounds with it.
It is so fucking funny. Because this is a question that usually when we say, is it a wig? It's pretty obvious that it's a wig. Honestly, I couldn't tell you.
No. Well, it is, but.
Because later on when she's like a sloppy drunk and it's just all down and shit.
Yeah. Or at one point she's combing it. And I was like, what the fuck is she combing?
So yeah, she warns them that hanging rock is dangerous and there will be no tomboy foolishness while there. Also, watch out for poisonous snakes.
Yeah, no, I'm going to tell you what they are. You've got tiger snake, eastern brown snake, red-bellied black snake, and copperhead. Every single one of them can kill you.
Jesus Christ.
What the hell is wrong with this country?
This explains why they're all such maniacs.
Like you have an animal that is as ubiquitous as deer that you can literally put boxing gloves on and it will fight you. Yep. You got that.
And I've seen it do that thing where they rock back on their tail and kick. Just like in the cartoons.
It's amazing.
It's crazy.
It's like this is a place where people were not supposed to live.
No, at one point there's there's a lot of wildlife B-roll also in this, like as they're going out, and there's like beautiful birds, a kookaburra and like shit like that. And then at one point they show you a koala bear up in a tree, and I was like, that motherfucker is probably vicious and waiting to fall on somebody and kill them.
Yeah, and if everyone's like, what are you talking about? Koala bears are so cute. Look up a picture of a wet koala bear.
They will freak you out.
They are terrifying. Also, not bears. Don't besmirch the good name.
They are pretty cute though. I'm gonna give them that when they're not wet. But yeah, she also informs them that it will be warm today and they will be permitted to take off their gloves.
These
girls are tied up like neck
literally
to ankle. Like they've all got those like fucking cameo chokers on, the fucking hats and shit.
Like a beetle boot going up to the thigh.
It's crazy.
Ridiculous. Expect anyone to be proper and ladylike when it is literally 700 degrees right. Out on the fucking veldt.
Yep. Miranda casts a longing glance at Sarah, who watches them all get ready to leave. And then Miss Appleyard sees them off. And then they pass through town. Little boys chase their carriage. Looks a lot like a set of a Western.
But it's also, I think that is, again, for Americans who have not had a lot of experience with Australian film, but Australia in general, this would probably be the first look at Australia where you're like, oh, it is kind of developed.
It is.
Yeah, of course it's developed, dummy.
There's also a weird sort of parallel to the way that like Australia and the United States sort of developed. Like they were far enough from England to sort of like, have the sort of general trappings of the culture, but really like they have the same sort of like Western colonization that we did, like our indigenous people sort of suffered through. They had this sort of boom towns and shit like that. They kind of look like the same sort of old West sets. They had the same kind of car culture that came up, which is why like car racing movies and car crash movies were just as ubiquitous is in Australia as in the United States at the same time.
The Cars of Paris is basically about that.
Yeah. It's
about the
wild.
leftover
Like
cars.
they even had like a drive-in movie culture in the same way that we did. Like there's more, like Australia has more in common with the United States than with England. It's really wild.
Yep.
The carriage driver points out.
Also, I find it very hard to believe that all of those girls fit in that one carriage.
There's a lot of fucking girls.
7-seat carriage.
Yeah. The carriage driver points out Hanging Rock as they approach, and it is a violent outcropping of volcanic rock. Their valet, Miss McCraw, dreamily explains the process of its formation in terms
Does she ever.
which could be described as vaguely sexual.
Oh, yeah. Mine says orgasmic. Downright orgasmic.
Yep.
Yeah, there is going to be a lot of symbolism contained within Hanging Rock itself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Or projected onto it.
It is both phallic and yonic.
Yeah, no, those words come up in my notes a lot. Yeah, because she's just like, and then the lava, it comes from below and very violently, it erupts out of the top. I'm just like, good Lord.
She's aroused at the thought of this volcanic formation like 6 million years ago.
And she is a spinster through and through.
Oh,
So it's, I mean, we're making jokes about it, but you are supposed to pick up on the fact that this woman who is very staid and very kind of cold looking is all of a sudden seemingly in almost a trance describing something in very sexual terms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not a subtle thing. You are supposed to notice that.
Yeah. Sexuality lies at the heart of this movie, you know,
Yes, and fears of sexuality,
and that sort of like the hidden, having to keep it hidden, having to sort of hold it inside, because this, again, going back, this is 1900, and it is a time of you did not talk about that ever.
Nope. Just wait until they start sumptuously taking off those stockings.
Elsewhere at Hanging Rock, a young man picnics with his family. He wanders away, joins his friend nearby for a little beer and awkward conversation.
Yeah, no shit. First of all, this family, so they are British. They are a Victorian British family of means. And they've got like a whole table. Like they're in the fucking woods. Like it would be like if I dragged like a dining table outside into the woods with a couple of chairs and then set out like a beautiful spread.
Oh yeah, later on there's going to be like a fucking party outside, like in the middle of the wild, like by the lake, where they've got like a tent and a buffet and a fucking string quartet and shit.
A million crocodiles or whatever.
Right.
And so also that part in itself, it's his aunt and uncle. I can't remember his name. Michael is his name.
Michael is his name, and Albert is his friend.
Yeah, and so it's him, and like Albert, you don't know really who Albert is at first. Like you get the feeling he's not a part of the family. So he goes up to him because he's a stodgy old aunt and uncle. Nobody wants to hang out with them. So he goes to find Albert. Now we will later on be given to understand that he and Albert are friends.
Yeah,
or friendly.
Albert is the help.
Yes,
and he just likes to chill with this dude.
But at first, when he walks up to him, it's such a bizarre moment because you're like, what is happening here? Like, is this a class issue where he's super uncomfortable because he's, the help and blah, blah, blah? Are they gonna fuck? Is he
that was the other
awkward?
thing is I was like, is everybody gay in this movie? But like they immediately turn around and they're like, check out them chicks.
Yeah, it takes a minute, but like for a while you're like, are these dudes gonna kiss?
Yeah. But again, the setup is that even the way that they handle the bottle, because it's like a big bottle of beer.
Yeah.
Again, a big phallic bottle of beer that they're like passing back and forth between each other.
And what he does is Albert gives him, Albert who's like chomping on like a handful of fucking Ritz or something. Is this backwash city is what that bottle is. But so he like hands it over to Michael and he like goes to wipe the rim of the bottle and then he doesn't. And he kind of looks at him, gives him like a sly look and doesn't wipe it off and just drinks from it. And I was like, are they going to fuck each other? I think they're going to fuck each other. But also Dude, God only knows what's in the bottle at this point. There's crumbs all over the outside of it.
Oh, shit.
The least you could do is wipe the edge off.
I know, and they're going to do something that like Australian movies do a lot when they portray food. There's always flies crawling on everything.
Oh, the bugs in this movie upset me so much.
So gross, super gross.
Because I cannot stand the feeling of something crawling on me.
No.
And throughout the entire film, there are bugs crawling on the animals, the people, the food, the bottles, the fucking houses, everything. They're just flies or ants. And I'm like, I would kill myself immediately.
If I got dumped there and like that was me, I'd be like, nope, just take a fucking walk into the ocean and then take a deep breath. No, thank you. No, thank you. For further reference, see Razorback.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
fright indeed.
Good God. Yeah. That movie and Razorback are like 90 minutes of a movie you can smell.
Yeah.
So at the school, Miss Appleyard harasses Sarah about memorizing the assigned poetry.
I fucking love Sarah.
I love her. She's a fucking rebel.
She is so defiant in this moment in the best part. Like in a way that I was like, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. Sarah attempts to recite a piece that she composed herself, but she gets shut down.
This bitch won't even listen to it.
No, it could be good.
I mean,
you don't know.
Wasn't gonna. No, she's a teenager. We know it's not good, but it could have. Like, she could have entertained her. She wrote a whole fucking poem.
Yeah. Listen, Miss
That's
Appleyard,
better than
she
reading
did
whatever.
the work. Just entertain this poor girl.
Yeah, whatever bullshit fucking Robert Burns poem she's supposed to memorize. Like, it's got to be better than that.
Yeah. So she's left to continue memorizing, but instead puts her head down on the desk. At Hanging Rock, the girls chill out, reading more poetry.
Well, first we get this weird kind of cacophonous moment of all the animals freaking out. And the watch is stopping.
Yes. The carriage driver remarks that his watch seems to have stopped at noon. Then Miss McCraw's watch has also stopped at 12. And then Miranda and several girls go off to explore, and the boys watch them from a distance as they cross the creek.
Well, before they do that, she's like, Miranda, give your beautiful diamond watch. Tell me what time. Miranda's like, I don't even wear that anymore. I have no need of it. And the other girl's like, if I had a diamond watch, I'd wear it in the bar. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I'd rather have flies crawling all over me than have a fucking afternoon with you girls.
What did she say? I couldn't stand it ticking by my heart.
Oh my God. Everything is like insanely sentimental and romantic. It's wild.
Somewhere in here, I have a note that just remarks that they all talk like they're on fucking acid.
They really do.
Like they have taken a huge dose of acid and they are at the peak and are trying to communicate with one another. But it's just fucking stream of conscious nonsense coming out of their mouths.
And like weird hand gestures, flailing. And then the teacher, the French teacher is like, I think I understand that Miranda, she's like a Botticelli angel. And I was like, that is a really weird and wildly inappropriate thing to say about your student.
Yeah, also you're looking at Venus in that picture, Miss Poitier.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
There are teachers in America have been arrested for that. Not enough of them, but...
So now Michael sneaks off to follow them, and they walk up the hill to the rock, an imposing crag that looms over the otherwise beautiful landscape. At the top of the hill, they weave between the monoliths. One of the girls, Edith, complains loudly about making the trip.
It's an interesting moment, this shot of them, because they're winding around it in this. It's like very gorgeously shot, the way that it's like you're kind of with them as the camera's moving around, and they're kind of going up the rocks, and it imparts this sense of wonder and discovery in a visual way that I don't know that I've ever really experienced in another movie.
Because it is a series of like pretty quick cuts of them like,
so like a shitload. This is like really bang 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 bang
them, like,
cuts,
and they're all kind of holding hands as they walk, like in a single file line.
Yep. And
they wind around the rocks. There's shots from above that sees them kind of like weaving through the crevices, and just it's dreamlike. That's what it is. It has this kind of very fluid flow to the way that they sort of move, that the way that the camera tracks them. And it's a variety of like very interesting shots that definitely imply like a single continuous motion up to the top. It's
Yeah, unfortunately, this is one of the moments where the music is really intrusive.
Yeah.
In a distracting way, where it's like this is a very dreamlike moment. It calls for
you don't feel like Zamfir, master of the pan flute?
I feel like maybe Zamfir he misread the brief. Yeah. He was like, "Oh, you wanted Greek delight? Sure."
So yeah.
You forgot to mention that when they were watching them go into the woods, Michael and the other guy, they're talking. He's like, the Sheilas are all alike when it comes to the fellas.
I love that they call them Sheilas. Edith complains. When they reach the top, they talk about Sarah, who is an orphan at the school. She writes poetry all about Miranda.
Yeah.
And then Edith lays down and falls asleep on the rocks.
So this is my first note where it's like there's a lot of Ionic symbolism here because the passages that they go through in the rocks, they are very vaginal. And my note is they are, if you will allow me to coin a term, vulvacious.
Oh, that's you. You have coined a term for the age.
Blam.
I love it. We're gonna put that on. I'm putting that on a t-shirt.
I think also what's interesting in this moment is what we are the impression that we're given of Edith is that she's not like these other girls. So and I don't mean that in like Becky's not like the other girls. Like she's really like the other three are very curious and sort of impish in a way, and they're almost being drawn into the rock in a way.
Yeah, they've fallen under whatever the spell that hanging rock has cast on them. Edith is unaffected by this.
And Edith, like, she doesn't have the same curiosity. She doesn't have the same appreciation for sort of new and unfamiliar things. And I think maybe that is one of the reasons why Edith will eventually kind of have a different path.
Yep.
Quite literally a different path.
Yeah.
Because we can also, as they're doing all of this, what I think is really cool is when Zamfir fucking cools it for a little bit, we can hear the sounds of like wind that almost sounds like breathing. And you can hear a very subtle thumping as though the mountain that they're on is alive.
Because it's not just that. I noticed, and it is very, very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
As they go deeper and deeper into it, the camera starts to shake a little bit.
Yeah. So it's like what the thing they're walking through is alive.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Because it's going to happen again later on as Michael and Albert start to sort of like explore the crag as well. It's got such a neat, because it's not, you got to be paying attention. Otherwise, it's just part of the sort of like the vibe that you're getting. Like things are getting dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. Because this is also when they start to go into, they each start to slip into a very strange trance.
Yeah.
And they're like, one of them's, I think it's Miriam is the one who's swaying and kind of like waving her arms and like twirling very, very slowly. And all of this stuff is shot with a very thin layer of gauze over the camera. Mm-hmm. So it's like the same way they shoot Miranda the same way a lot of times. Like when they shoot her from afar, it's a very, very thin layer. It's either silk or gauze. They refer to it as like a bridal veil. A
bridal veil is the one, yeah.
But I don't think they're actually using a bridal veil. I think they're using some other kind of fabric.
The mesh would be too thick,
It would read like shit, but like whatever this is, it's probably like maybe, I think Michael suggested like a muslin kind of thing, but it's something to make it look very sort of fantasy-esque.
Right. Like they used to do it on Star Trek a lot. Like whenever like Joan Collins was on it, or there was like a woman would be photographed, like she always had this kind of like, I don't know, a smear of Vaseline.
It's the Vaseline on the lens.
On the lens kind of thing.
And in those cases, it looks cheap and it looks cheesy a lot of the time because it's TV and it looks like shit. In this, it is 100%, they get what they're going for.
Yeah. Yeah. Down below, the girls all seem to be sleeping as well, while Miss McCraw reads and stares up at the rocks with a troubled expression. These girls got guts to be taking a nap in a fucking landscape where everything is deadly.
Literally, anything could just walk up and bite you.
Yep.
And it will. It absolutely will. It wants to harm you.
This is the most fucking hostile landscape short of Antarctica.
They have a snake called the Death Adder. That is literally what it's called.
Yep.
One bite and you're gone.
Yep. You gotta smash it in with a fucking with a shovel. I used to work with an Australian guy who got a text from his buddy one day telling him that a Death Adder showed up at his house and he had to kill it with a shovel.
Well, what else? You kill it with whatever you can find.
You have
I kill
no
it with my
choice.
car. I don't even have a car. But also, the book that she's reading, it's a math textbook.
Okay.
Just
right. 'cause
thumbing
there's
through.
Yeah, there's it's
Geometry.
Geometry.
Yeah, geography, you know.
Geography, math.
It's chemistry.
I almost
It's that
said
kind of
geology.
thing. Wow, you're further and further away.
Yeah. After a time, the 4 girls at the top of Hanging Rock wake up, complaining of feeling sick. All of them, except Edith, climb higher into the rocks while Edith begs them to come down.
And this scene is insane. It looks, so the way that it is shot, I think it's kind of from Edith's perspective. And Edith, good God, calm down. But also the way that we're seeing it, it looks as though they're walking into the rock. So they're walking into a crevice of the rock, but it looks like they're literally walking into the rock and then disappearing.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah. Edith's vibe is very JD Vance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know those memes where they make him look like a baby?
Yeah,
She's like that.
she's fucked a couch or two for sure.
For sure. Overcome with fear, Edith runs away screaming as the 3 girls disappear around the rocks. Yeah. So now it's nighttime at the school. Miss Appleyard is awake, still, and worried. And the carriage returns. The college staff goes out to meet them. Miss Lumley, looking positively wrecked, steps off the carriage with the girls, telling Miss Appleyard that there's been an accident and that they left Miss McCraw behind.
She's going to have to let the man explain.
Right, Sarah.
She just does not have the language.
No, she's got the vapors.
She really does.
Yeah. She needs a bromide and a fainting couch.
She is full of black bile about that. Does not know what to do.
No. She needs a proper bloodletting.
And that's it. That's all of our old-timey medical.
You gotta balance your humors. You gotta have a little bloodletting and have a bromide. Sarah sadly realizes that Miranda didn't return. The driver informs Miss Appleyard that the 3 girls as well as Miss McCraw vanished. The police are summoned. The driver tries to explain that no one knows what happens because everybody fell asleep. And then Edith was the one to tell everybody what happened up on the rock.
Edith.
I know. Soon after, a search party is formed, and they go up on the rock looking for the girls.
And we see a dog actually try to attack another child, which is not in the script. It's just a dog trying to attack another child.
Yeah. But also, there are lots of, they did this a little bit before, but now they're starting to do it. They're going to do it a lot more as more and more people go up to Hanging Rock. There are all these shots of the different monoliths, and they all look like they have faces.
They do. It's super creepy. So they go from being, when you're up close and on them, they either look like vagina or they look like a dick. And when you back off of them, they look like they have faces in them. It's very, very creepy, stately at best.
Yeah.
Creepy at most.
Because, in the previous scenes when the girls are going up, there's like a sense of wonder and awe. And the Zamfir music is supposed to kind of aid in that, but now
it doesn't.
They want you to be afraid of this place.
Yeah, it all turns to fear. And it's interesting. What is interesting about it is what we get when the tone of the movie turns to fear. We also get, this is where the townspeople become injected into the story.
Yeah.
So we finally see an
Aboriginal
Aboriginal
evolution
person.
to that too, because at first everybody just wants to help.
Yeah, we finally see our first Aboriginal person here, who is later referred to as an abo tracker.
He's got a sweet hat.
Yeah, he does. He is really outfitted to the nines. I appreciated it. But yeah, this is because immediately what we get is the townspeople start talking about what's happened because no one's really saying anything. No one's telling them because then nobody has the information, but they won't even say that much. They won't say, well, we really don't know what happened. It's all kind of cloaked in mystery.
Yeah.
And the only person who's really going to say anything is fucking Edith. And as we will learn, she sucks.
Yes, she does. Back at school, Miss Lumley grills Edith about what frightened her, but she's unresponsive. A doctor examines her, but is also unable to determine what happened up there. Miss Appleyard is worried that they were,
however, say that she is quite intact. And I
Miss Appleyard
gross.
says, she worries that she's been molested.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. In town, the people are beginning to talk. The police speak to Michael, the only witness of the girls leaving. His memory of them is unreliable.
Well, he does. He's like, well, do you remember the order you saw them walk? And he was like, well, the little dumpy one was in the front. And I was like, the little dumpy one. Holy shit.
Yep. Edith goes up to the rock with Miss Lumley and the cop. She suddenly remembers a strange detail while running away. She passed Miss McCraw walking up the hill as she was coming down and spotted a strange red cloud. Edith also remembers a funny detail about seeing her because Miss McCraw was wearing no skirt as she walked up the hill, just her bloomers.
Yeah, just her pantalones. It's interesting here. This is another moment where we get a discomfort, a kind of caginess in her description of things. She won't say it in front of the man.
She whispers it to...
She whispers it to the French teacher or whatever the fuck her name is, Lumley. She whispers it in her.
I got that wrong.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lumley's the piano one. She'll whisper it in her ear and she will then relay it. And it's the fact that this is like a common thing that you see in if you've ever read any kind of history, you'll pick up on the fact that they didn't say shit like that because it was like uncouth.
Yeah, there's an order to
improper.
things that have to be observed. And, young ladies don't talk like that.
But the reality is it's a lot like putting them all together and being like, oh, they're not going to discover their sexuality. Or it's a lot like being like, yeah, you can take your gloves off. And like the first fucking thing they do is like rip off half their clothes.
I did fail to mention that because they go up there and there's a moment where because it sounds like, taking your gloves off is like, you're going to take your gloves off if you get fucking hot. But like the girls get up on the rock, like the girls who disappear, and like the first thing they do is like they take their shoes off, they roll down their stockings, which is provocative in the context.
Yep. And it's this sort of all leads to the belief that they were kidnapped, I guess, or sexually assaulted. They've been abducted, but not by a local, because a local person wouldn't do that. But I think the Miss McCraw running away in her underwear is another sort of support of that idea that like, oh, this is a sex crime.
Yeah.
That these girls who then like they sort of went up there and, were kind of feeling themselves and taking off their stockings, sumptuously, as one does.
Yeah.
Like you're in a sumptuous laundry. This leads to this, but it's also that idea of like, you're withholding information, valuable information, because of propriety.
Yep.
And propriety plays a big role in this in the same way that class does. And class doesn't really get injected until about here.
Right.
Where we start to see what the townspeople are saying.
Once the townspeople get involved, particularly with the cop, because he is...
he's the link between both of them.
Yeah. He's a symbol of authority, but he is definitely of the town.
And his name is Bumfer. I like that.
Yeah. Miss Lumley and the cop get a piece of Miranda's clothing. He tells Sarah that it's for the bloodhounds.
Well, they go through it because they find her there because Sarah's going through Miranda's underwear drawer like a fucking creep. Reel it in a little bit, Sarah.
Yeah. Understanding what this means, she collapses on the bed. On the...
this is my first part with the red herring. So I think... because from here on out, it is going to be like a red herring city, kind of.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's so much red herrings as they are. This is the way that investigations unfold, that you kind of have to investigate every single aspect of everything that's happened. And some of those things will feel more suspicious than other things will. And that's why I think they feel like red herrings, but they're not really red herrings. They're just parts of the story. Like some people behave in strange ways, or what seems like a strange way under the circumstances that otherwise wouldn't really be that strange. So like Michael becomes a big focus of like, is he involved? And he never really feels like he is, but like there's always you're never given an easy solution.
Right.
And so they all feel like potential things. And then when they don't pan out, only then do they feel like red herrings. But I don't think they actually are. I think they're just parts of the investigation. And because this is 75, and we haven't been through fucking 7 decades or 3 decades, whatever it is, of procedural crime TV, we actually don't know how investigation unfolds. So
Right.
it looks like they're throwing you all these kind of false leads, but in reality, it's like they're just telling you all of the things that happened.
Yeah.
It is you that is cluing into certain things. And then you're the one who's just like, but that didn't work out. So red herring. And it's like, well, it wasn't. It was just part of the story. It was a part of someone's life that happened at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, because a lot of people's complaints were like, well, there's so many red herrings and you still don't even resolve the story. And it's like, I don't think they are red herrings. I think they're just part of the story.
Yeah, because it's,
A
it's
red herring is an attempt to deliberately mislead you.
yeah, clever ruse.
And this is, cunning attempt to trick you. This is, they're not deliberately misleading you. They're just putting in parts of the story. It's just a detail that otherwise might get left out because it's not that significant.
Right, because really what is at the kind of the heart of this, and I think if I had to characterize the entire tone of the movie, it's frustration.
With a little bit of paranoia.
Yeah. And that's really what you're supposed to clue in on, is because like we're gonna travel with them, and we're gonna investigate, and we're gonna follow up on all the leads and find all the clues, and still just get nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because in reality, that's kind of what a investigation is. A crime either gets solved very quickly or doesn't get solved at all.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. So now up on the rock, the search party continues to search using dogs this time. The cops continue to talk to Michael, suspecting that he might be involved, now seeing as he followed them up the hill, but without them knowing. And then he went up and found nothing, so he came back down.
Just followed the dumpy one.
Michael
girl.
attends a rich people party at the edge of a lake. He chills out, drinks more beer with his bro Albert, tells him that he wakes up every night in a cold sweat now, haunted by this disappearance. And Albert couldn't care less.
Yeah. No sideways glance, no touch of the thigh, nothing.
Nope. That time is over.
Yep.
Nope. Albert realizes that Michael is just into Miranda. So he wants to go up onto the rock to look for the girls. He asks Albert to come with him, but he refuses, insisting that the girls are probably dead now.
Which, hey, a fucking week in the bush or where the hell they are?
I know, right? In like the fucking world's most hostile landscape. Oh, they dead.
Fucking 6 capybaras dragged them into the river ages ago.
A dingo ate every one of them.
Oh, baby and all. And it's true. The dingo did eat the girl's baby.
Yep. What a
Just
bummer.
saying. Fact.
So he leaves his mansion in the early morning and is surprised to find his bro, Albert, waiting for him with horses.
Yeah.
Yep. So
You
they
can
rise
always
up
rely
the
on
hanging rock. They climb up looking for the girls. Michael climbs up and starts pinning like papers around. That's not really clear. It will be clear later on why he's doing that. But he pins it to a shrub before being called down by Albert. Albert tells him that they're going to have to leave soon before it gets dark, but Michael insists that he's staying behind.
Which is a really smart choice.
Right.
What did I just say about capybaras dragging you? You're like, oh, what is that? They're a giant rodent.
Capybaras are chill little guys.
There's nothing little about them.
No, they're very large. They
They are the world's largest person. Yeah.
But they are
And they're
chill
disgusting.
nonetheless. I would worry more about the koalas and the kangaroos
And the death adder.
and the death adder and the other poisonous snakes that you did the research on.
I have become a big fan of wombat videos on Instagram. And one of the more charming things about the wombat is that its defense mechanism is its butt.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you ever seen a slow loris?
Yeah, Eddie loved slow lorises.
Slow lorises
lori?
are adorable. Also venomous as hell.
Yep.
And it's when they put their arms up that everybody's like, oh, look how cute he is. It's like, no. The venom sacs are in his armpits.
Yeah. He wants to kill you.
Yeah.
Just like everything else in this continent, he wants to kill you.
So, Albert goes back and informs Michael's father, maybe?
His uncle.
Okay. But he is
1,000 years old.
a man
He's basically Scrooge.
in a fez
Yep.
in a room full of just like adventurers club, definitely stolen artifacts from like the dark continent.
Did you play Borderlands? Any of the
Oh, yeah.
Borderlands
Yeah,
games?
yeah.
There's Sir Hammerlock is the adventurer, the hunter.
Yeah.
He's basically Sir Hammerlock,
Yeah.
except he's not charming or gay.
No. So he tells him that Michael is super wasted at a nearby pub and is sleeping it off there. Don't worry about it.
And that's sort of half true. He's wasted on fucking
love.
hanging rock goofballs.
True to his word, Michael stays behind as night falls. In the morning, he continues to explore, climbing higher up the rock. When he reaches the same clearing that the girls did, he lays down and sleeps while flashbacks of the girls walking and talking like they're on drugs play.
And we also get the repetition of the phrase that Miranda was saying, everything begins and ends at exactly the right time.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of important, maybe to him.
Yeah. Yep.
Because a lot of what we're seeing, and this is another one where I'm like, I'm not sure this quite works as well as it could have or should have. He is a person who is sort of obsessed, and he is probably the closest thing we have to a witness among all of them. And he becomes really captivated by whatever happened to them. And like, he never knew any of these girls. He saw Miranda like one fucking time. And so I think you're supposed to assume like there's something maybe a little mystical happening, but like he is the extreme end of how this affects people, because he is like obsessed with this. And I think it's interesting that he goes up there intending to look for them, but a lot like a couple of the other characters, he can't quite get to where they were. It's interesting that they're never like these three girls, for whatever reason, and their teacher eventually, were able to cross some kind of barrier. And he was not, and Edith was not, and all the other fucking people who've gone to look for them have not been able to get to whatever point they got to.
Right, because they were in the right time.
I think that's why it's interesting that that's playing at that moment, is that everything begins and ends exactly the right time. So you're not there. That's not for you.
Yeah.
It was for them because they were right there in the moment where they were supposed to be. And that's why it happens.
Yeah.
But everybody else is not supposed to be there. And so that's why they can't get there, because something very strange happens to him in this moment where he's like, he falls asleep, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of passes out, falls asleep. And in this weird haze, like it's just a fixed shot on him laying there, but like all of a sudden there's like a wound on his forehead opens up out of nowhere.
Right, because it definitely wasn't there before.
And at first I was like, why is there a drop of blood that falls onto his head? It's not a drop of blood. It's a wound on his head opens up.
Yeah.
So there's something happening there where it's like you can't go beyond this point.
Right. It's like he runs into a wall.
Yes.
No. So he wakes up suddenly calling Miranda's name, and then climbs up higher, struggling on his hands and knees to reach the crevice that they disappeared at. At the bottom of the hill, Albert finds Michael's camp. And then, he also finds the little pieces of paper that Michael's been using. It's basically, it turns out he's been using them to mark his path as he climbs up the rock, like a breadcrumb trail. When he reaches the top, he finds Michael in a bad state and rushes back to town for help. And then they retrieve Michael and they bring him back to town. Before they leave, he puts something in Albert's hand, which is a piece of the girl's dresses.
Creepy.
And then Albert runs back up the rock and struggles to climb in the same spot that Michael did, but he makes it through. And then
you skipped the part where the townspeople, or is this maybe you haven't yet, where the townspeople go to the cop? They go to his house.
That's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's I believe that's after they find Irma.
Yes,
which happens right now because he goes onto the other side. He manages to break through where Michael could not, and when he's on the other side, he finds Irma and she's barely still alive.
And he just sort of screams. It's like, just fucking fireman, carry her out of there, you weirdo. Why are you screaming?
Yeah, it's tough walk down Hanging Rock.
I guess.
Yeah, as they bring the girl down, the town gathers to see her, but the cops drive them off and they demand to know what's going on and threaten to form a mob.
Look, Bumfer needed to get his fucking gun and go back out on that porch. Of course, they probably all had guns too, because goddamn.
Miss Appleyard then addresses her class about the return of Irma, and they happily embrace. In the inner study, Miss Appleyard tells Miss Lumley that the newspapers have picked up on the story, and it's a national story now.
And then she says, Miss Lumley, you need to go tend to your students. It's senior needlework. I think she and I went to the same college.
Yeah. Parents are starting to pull their kids out of school When Miss Lumley leaves, she sits down at her desk sadly, breaking her stern exterior for a moment.
Yeah, she's still a bitch, though.
Oh, she's the worst. Irma is convalescing at Michael's family's estate, and he checks in on her. The doctor remarks that despite being gone for a week, she has only scratches and a couple of cuts, but is otherwise fine.
And intact.
And intact.
She, too, is intact.
The house staff remarks to the house mother that of all Irma's clothing, her corset was missing.
But she is also extremely cagey about the fact that her, what is essentially underwear, is missing.
Yeah.
Her sort of delicate clothing, her underclothes.
Her sumptuous laundry.
Her sumptuous laundry is missing.
Yeah.
And again, it's that feeling of like, you get the feeling that if you all would just stop being so fucking proper for a minute, some of these things could be resolved.
Yeah.
But you can't, because there's this absolute desperate need on the part of some people to uphold propriety. Mm-hmm. And that is, I mean,
to their detriment.
Yes. I think, namely, Appleyard is one of them. But like, there's this feeling of like, well, you have to be proper. We can't. And it's just like, bitch, just fucking say it. Her corset's missing. That's a little bit weird since everything else about her is fine.
Right. Yep. In town, people are starting to speculate. The mystery is beginning to bother them. The lack of answers, the lack of logic, it's all upsetting to them. Mm-hmm. Yep. Sarah meets with Miss Appleyard, who informs her that her guardian has not paid her tuition in some time. And so she cancels all of her extracurricular activities until her fees are paid, and if they're not, she's going to have to leave.
Now, I believe this is also where we get the part in the greenhouse. The guy, Minnie, the one, the domestic worker,
right.
Her boyfriend, who also works, he's like a groundskeeper.
Yeah.
And he's like in the greenhouse talking to the, I guess maybe another groundskeeper. And he's sort of going on and on about like the mystery of it all, what happened to them, and blah, blah,
that's
and
right.
The guy who's in the greenhouse with him is quite a bit older, and he's not very interested in what he's saying, and he just sort of turns to him and says, you know, there are some plants that move on their own.
Oh, that's right. He does that thing where he demonstrates by touching the leaves.
He leads him over to one of these plants, and he kind of runs his finger along it, and the plant, when he does that, you know, it's like a Venus flytrap kind of plant, like it closes on its own, and then it reopens again. And the guy's like, oh, and I love this moment because I feel like this is sort of Weir's way, or, you know, the film's way of saying, we don't always know why things happen. And sometimes it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And like, that's really what we're getting. It's like, we have no idea what's going on here. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's like,
doesn't change anything that we don't know.
We got shit to do, man.
Yep. And I think it's a really cool moment of just being like, there are some people that are like, I don't know and I don't care. Doesn't change my world at all.
Yeah. Which is, I don't know, that's probably the most healthy way to be, instead of like, as opposed to like Michael, whose entire life has been sort of derailed by this.
Yeah. And it's weird that there's no centrist position. And I mean centrist in like the actual sense, not the political sense, but like there's no one that's just like, we can healthily, I guess Bumfer is doing that, but like we can healthily look into this and try to figure this out. But everybody is operating on some extreme. They're either paranoid and afraid and frustrated, or they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And nobody is just like, why don't we just check it out? We'll see what happens. We'll see what's what here.
They got a wait and see attitude. Miss Lumley finds Sarah sitting in the dark on the steps, tears streaked on her face. She spends all her time now laying in her bed. And she tells her housekeeper about how she had a brother once when they were in an orphanage, when the headmistress was cruel and vindictive. And this is after the threat of having to go back to the orphanage. By night, the housekeeper tells her
brother Bertie.
Her brother Bertie, yeah.
Because
that was a weird twist that I was like, what?
So the part of Sarah is the real glaring thing for me that doesn't feel like it fits very well. And I've never read the book, so maybe the book has more room to kind of explore it.
Yeah.
I understand the sexuality piece of it. That's fine. I feel like it's a little bit of a salacious thing to kind of stick in there, but whatever. The 70s, I guess. But the way that the rest of her story unfolds, we don't have enough information for all of these things about Sarah to matter to us.
Right.
And so when they keep tossing us these kind of little bits of information, I'm just sort of like, okay, so what?
I know. I suppose that's why that part of the ending kind of falls flat for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I suppose we're getting there. We're approaching the turn here.
Yeah, because and also because I feel like Sarah's one of the few characters that we have left that we actually know her name.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they're just like, hey, everybody, remember Sarah, the weird lesbian from before?
Right. By night, the housekeeper tells her boyfriend that she's terribly sad for the girls, and then he plays it off because they're all rich.
Which again, very interesting. There's a lot of classism that runs through the entire story.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's maybe part of what Sarah is there to do, to be like, yeah, but they're not all rich.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is what his girlfriend, that's Minnie, but that's what she says to him.
That's what she
It's
tells him.
But they're not all like that. Some of them are orphans.
Right. There's a montage of the girls in the school, the faculty, and Michael all unable to sleep. Michael imagines that there's a swan at the end of his bed, superimposed.
I don't
with
think
an
he
image of
imagines.
Miranda.
I think that's an actual fucking swan at the end of his bed. I think he wakes up and there's a swan in his room.
There's just a fucking swan in his bed.
Can you imagine waking up and there's a goddamn swan in
I'd
your
freak
bed?
the fuck out. Did I ever tell you about the time there was a fucking bird in my toilet?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. It was many years ago, maybe about 10 years ago at this point, and there was it was Saturday morning in the winter, mind you, and there was a terrible commotion in the bathroom. And I thought that, because the cats will climb on the shit, and I thought that maybe one of them had fallen in. So I go in, and there's a huge black wing sticking up out of the toilet.
I would have been like, nope. I would have slammed the lid down.
Because
I need to call the police or something.
Precisely what I did. I shut the lid, and then I closed the door, and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? How is this even possible? And I after a time, I'm like, okay, well, after I sorted the shock out, I made a decision. I was like, I can't leave this thing in here. I've got to do something about it.
No, you need a bathroom.
So I go in and I very carefully open up the lid just a little bit, and I look, and the bird is just sitting there like staring at me. And I went like, nope. And I closed it. I shut the door again. And then after a time, I was like, okay. And this is not like an hour or anything. This probably happened in the span of maybe 15 minutes.
Because you had to Google it.
I was like, I had to fucking figure this out. I got to get this thing out. So I'm like, I go and I get I got like a garbage bag, and I get some like a fucking oven mitt and shit, like a Mr. Mom and stuff. And then the whole thing is I'm just going to go, and I'm going to kind of try to scoop it up in the bag and take it outside and let it go. And then I go back in and I open up the lid, and the bird is dead.
Great.
Yep.
You did that. That was you. You killed that bird.
Yep.
Well, I guess it's better than a swan in your bed.
That is true. But yeah, big old like crow in my toilet.
I see. I live in a city and we don't have birds inside the houses.
I'm desperate. This is my picnic at Hanging Rock, is trying to figure out how that thing got in there.
I think it's a metaphor.
for lost girls who disappeared in time.
Yeah. It's the 2000 whatever equivalent of a swan in your bed.
Yeah. Precisely. See, you get it.
Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. So the search party continues its work up at Hanging Rock, but it's turning into a circus now. The press has arrived. The townspeople mill around and get in the way.
They have giant weird cameras.
They got those old timey cameras that take like 2 minutes to take a picture.
But they've got ones that have I guess it's like a telephoto lens, but it goes all the way up.
Yeah.
It's so they can get a picture of from the ground where they disappeared.
Oh, right. Like it's the guy with the periscope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get more vaginal cave shots.
That's right. More phallic shots of the rock.
Mm-hmm.
Back in town, Irma is up and about, but she remembers absolutely nothing about what happened to her. Michael sits.
But don't worry. The French lady says, "Oh, you look so pale, but prettier than ever." And my note says, "Yep, that's what matters."
Michael sits in the yard outside and imagines that he sees Miranda in the distance.
Man, you talked to her one time. Not even
Didn't
one
even
time.
talk to her. You saw her
her
from a distance. You creeped on that girl.
Yeah, and then you called her friend Dumpy.
Yep. The schoolgirls now leave church to go back to school. They turn to see the entire congregation just staring at them as they leave.
Like a bunch of fucking ghouls.
Yep.
They've got those two girls that are they look like they're from Children of the Corn, holding hands and shit.
Yep. When they return, they find a man with a camera just taking photos of them, and they're ushered in quickly. He's like the fucking paparazzi of the time.
We also get a quick shot on a missing poster.
Oh, that's
for the
right.
three of them. And it says very hard, like in big bold letters at the top, presumed dead. It's like, I mean, yeah, but still, come on.
Miss Poitier goes to visit Sarah and finds her mourning Miranda at a small shrine in her room. Just things are going great for Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah is coming undone.
Yeah. She brings Irma to visit the girls during a dance class where they dance listlessly in a barn.
Yeah, in the comfiest exercise clothes, which are basically corsets and fucking ball gowns.
Essentially, yeah. She's going to leave the school. She wants to go visit her family back in Europe. The girls say nothing to her at first, but then they bum rush her. Desperate.
Well, that's not really this. So the way this unfolds is really bizarre because it is a super tense moment. And this is like, I alluded to this in the Lake Mungo episode where there is this feeling like, why did you come back?
Oh,
like
right.
this feeling of like a little bit of resentment of these people who have now gone. And now this one is back and they're suspicious of her. And so they're all just kind of staring at her.
She's also wearing a red dress while they're all sort of just kind of like wearing like white.
Yeah, it's a super stark contrast. It's a really cool moment. And then Miss Lumley starts playing the piano again and they all just start going right back to their exercise like, okay, whatever, get out. But then that fucking, what's her face? Miriam? No, Edith.
Edith.
Yells like, what have you done? Or what do you know? Or something. And then they all rush at her. The implication is that she knows things she's not saying, or like she could solve the mystery, but she won't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And so they kind of attack her in this very weird way. And it's like, she's just the only one who survived. And that's all she knows.
Yeah. Like they're so desperate to know. They're so consumed by this mystery. Here's the one girl who could potentially tell them something, but she doesn't know shit. And it kind of works against her because they attack her.
Mm-hmm. And then my French girl slaps her in the face.
Slaps her in the face.
Slaps Edith in the face. And I was like, it's right, you slap that dumpy bitch in the face.
Right. And then
because she's like setting off like a moral panic at this point.
Yeah. And then she ushers Irma out. And then Miss Poitier goes back in and finds Sarah strapped to the wall.
I'm sorry. What? Again, this is that like there's so much about Sarah's story that is so poorly integrated that I'm just like, oh, and also apropos of nothing, Sarah's strapped to the wall.
There is a scene early on when Miss Appleyard gives her a hard time. It's when she's in the class. She's trying to get her to memorize the poetry.
Yeah.
And she sort of like is like, sit up straight. You're gonna get a slouch.
And so here is my theory about all of this. And again, this might be something that they get into more in the book that they don't in the movie. But I think Sarah becomes Miss Appleyard, the focus of Miss Appleyard's frustration.
Oh, right. Because she needs something, she needs somewhere to put this. And this is the only girl in the school that she could probably get away with it.
Right. She has no parents. She is there on basically not a scholarship, but like she's like
a guardianship who is supposed to be paying her tuition.
And so she, like all of her frustration and anger about the fact that things are changing and that the school is becoming less relevant, she kind of projects that onto Sarah.
Yeah.
And she becomes this kind of whipping boy. But there's the movie doesn't give that enough space to let it play out or to explore it in any way. So every time this shit comes up, it just feels like it's coming out of nowhere. And you're like, why is this lady being such an asshole?
Right.
And so like, that's like one of those few moments where I'm like, this movie's really incredible, except for this.
Yeah, there's a couple of wobbly moments for sure.
And then Miss Appleyard opens her drawer. She's got a drawer full of tchotchkes.
This is true. She's got a junk drawer, a Victorian junk drawer.
Which is full of a very large junk. She has large junk in her trunk.
Miss Lumley delivers her resignation to Miss Appleyard, who realizes that her entire school is coming apart because of this disappearance. And then drunk, Miss Appleyard visits with Sarah in a room to tell her that she'll be returning to the orphanage immediately. And then she returns to her office and cries.
And we have there is a moment where before she goes into Sarah's room, you see her rehearsing this speech that she's going to give. Like, we're not a charity. And like, you can tell, I think we're supposed to understand that like Mrs. Appleyard is not a bad person. She's just this person that is stuck kind of between generations or between worlds where like everything is changing. She doesn't know what to do and she feels like things are spinning out of control. And so her way of trying to feel a sense of control is to kind of cling to the old ways. And
she digs her heels in and pulls in the opposite direction. You see it play out in every generation, you know?
Yeah. And it's not like, and I think that this moment of seeing her being very upset about this, it's not just about the school failing. It's about the fact that like, she's not a terrible person. She's just this kind of weak person.
Yeah. Yeah. So now Michael and Albert hang out and Albert tells him that he had a dream recently. His kid sister came to visit him in it. He hasn't seen her since the orphanage and his sister's name is Sarah.
Why?
I don't know. It amounts to nothing. It is like that moment in Kill Bill when they announce her name and they do the bum soundtrack to go with it. And it's like, that was the big fucking mystery.
Yeah, but Peter Weir's a good director and Quentin Tarantino's not. That's the difference.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, he had this dream of her leaving the college and she came to say goodbye to him. More of this Omen stuff. At the school, Miss Appleyard informs Miss Poitier that Sarah's guardian came to take her away. It's a little suspect. And then the remaining girls all leave the school for the term.
And this is also where we get the sort of last moment of Mrs. Appleyard where she's kind of rambling about how her and her husband would go on vacation to Bournemouth. And she loves Bournemouth because nothing ever changes there. It's always the same. And things move so fast. And we loved Bournemouth because it was always the same. And it's like, that's the key to understanding Mrs. Appleyard is that she can't tolerate things changing because what happens is when you look to the future that you can no longer feel certain about, is you start to feel frustrated. You have no control. She is feeling exactly what everybody else is feeling.
Yeah. And she is in her cups.
Lord, is she ever. I believe this is where like they sort of start, like she has like a hairbrush. And I'm like, what is she brushing?
Oh yeah. Cause her hair she is like white girl drunk and her fucking hair is reflective of that state.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she's mad.
And she was like, now where was I? And I was like, you're rambling about some dumb shit like an old drunk.
Oh yeah. And then she's talking about all those good times. And then she stops and thinks about Miss McCraw and she's mad that she disappeared and assumes that she was murdered there.
Yeah.
And then
it's her fault. It's her fault for being, whatever.
Yeah. Miss Poitier wants to know if Sarah will be coming back next term, but Appleyard dodges the question. So then the next day, in the garden, the gardener finds the greenhouse in a state. The glass ceiling is broken, and among the broken glass, he finds the dead body of Sarah, who jumped to her death from her room.
I mean, okay.
Yep.
Sure.
And then the gardener bursts in on Miss Appleyard's office, finding her dressed in all black in a veil.
Yeah. Well, you missed the point where Miss Lumley comes in and is like, here's my resignation.
Oh, no, I didn't.
And then she just leaves. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then it freeze frames on this. An announcer tells us that Miss Appleyard's body was found at the base of Hanging Rock. It is assumed that she fell to her death while looking for the girls.
I feel like, I don't know, I'm fine. I hate the epilogue.
All right, because now, it is assumed that she fell while looking for the girls. The girls, meanwhile, were never found, despite years of searching. Then we slow motion pan across the girls at their picnic at the foot of the rock, and we fade to black. Roll credits.
So, I like the death of Mrs. Appleyard. I think it feels right.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like that she died, but like it feels like that's
it is a logical. Yeah, it's the logical endpoint for her.
But like she can't live in a world where she doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And this is how she copes with it. I don't like the epilogue. It feels a little cheesy. It feels beneath the movie.
Where they just are like, by the way, they never found the girls.
It feels like a studio note.
You could have. I would bet that there was an ending where he just ended it.
Yeah, and I think you could have done that. Like, if they had just cut to her wearing black and then cut away.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
I think that would have been cool.
Because I mean, the ending remains fundamentally the same.
Yeah,
the mystery's never resolved. yeah, and that's it. There is no resolution because, like, you know, let's face it, in a lot of situations like this, these cases don't resolve. They just remain unsolved for years.
Now, ordinarily, we would do the hold up question. Obviously, we both think this movie is incredible.
Oh yeah,
so
this is
I'm going to ask a different
nearly
question.
a 5-star occasion for me.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a different question. What do you think happened?
You know, I'm gonna be real with you. I haven't really even thought of it.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. That's my whole thing is, and I'm perfectly fine with that because the movie that we get is beautiful because of it. Because that's though it is the disappearance is the prime mover behind the sort of the ripples that happen in the school, in the surrounding towns, with the police, with the search parties, with the girls in the schools, the fucking faculty. That's the fucking story. And and so I do not care. I don't care what happened to them. I think I love that it's got that kind of magical realism about it.
Yep.
But it is a very compelling mystery. But the movie spends so little time ruminating on the what of it that I also don't really feel compelled to really think about it that much.
Yeah. Like I said up top, my theory is that really this is just about who can live with uncertainty and who can't. And I think that the fact that this movie inspires in the audience what is being experienced in the film
that is
profoundly cool.
And that is and I think that's why this movie just is mission accomplished all the way, because it starts with that quote about, you know, all that we see and that all we seem is a dream within a dream. And that is, this movie is the expression of that as a story.
Yes.
You know,
and
we become a part of it. We are just as frustrated as everybody else with the sort of lack of a resolution. There's no answers. When we finally do get a little bit, they bring Irma down from the hill. Like, there's supposed to be something that comes of that, and they fucking deny you that as well. And so, yeah.
And I think that's why I wish a little bit that I didn't know the story going into it, or I didn't know that there wouldn't be a resolution going into it, because there are two things I think are interesting, is that we are much more accustomed now to, we as Americans watching international film, we're much more accustomed to that. We're much more accustomed to watching abstract and ambiguous films, ambivalent films. And so we have a lot more experience with that. And so I think it would have been interesting to not know and then get to the end and be like, oh, it's sort of like the first time I watched Mulholland Drive and I was just like, wait, that's the end?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very simple, because Mulholland Drive is very similar to this, where you never quite know what's happening. And I wish I could have experienced it that way, but I do think there's something to be said for the fact that we are a little better trained when it comes to film now. And that changes how we, the audience, not you and I, but the audience in general, experiences this movie.
Yeah.
Because I do think we're better able to sit with the ambiguity. Because it's also perfectly executed ambiguity. It's not like Watcher in the Woods, where it's like, Jesus Christ, you're just like hitting us in the face at this point.
Oh yeah, it is like, yeah, tens across the board in terms of execution. Even though this was the first time that I'd watched it, I unfortunately did know that there was no resolution at the end going in. So I also did not have the luxury of sort of having it come to a conclusion and be like, wait, that's all?
Yeah,
but I'm fine with that. I think it's great. This movie is it is a sumptuous meal. It is a succulent Chinese meal, as you might say.
That's true. Yeah, y'all go watch fucking Peter Weir's first couple movies. They're really awesome. This one in particular, but Cars a Day Paris also really awesome. Last Wave's pretty good. It's not as good, but
yeah. But this one, I mean, on top of just being a really just good story,
yeah,
it is front to back gorgeous.
And I mean, and watch it alongside Lake Mungo. I mean, Lake Mungo is also a movie that is about the kind of pain of not knowing.
Yeah. That one unfortunately feels compelled to give you some sort of something a little weird at the end.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the downside.
Which we definitely spent a lot of time talking about, because as much as I enjoyed Lake Mungo, it's a very frustrating movie.
Yeah, he doesn't have the chops that Peter Weir and the rest of the gang have here, but he does have that same idea, that same vibe of like, how do we just sit with the unknown?
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. I can see that why you paired these up. That was clever. It was clever.
So I think I would like it for people to go watch this because I think they're both great movies. They go well together.
Yep. Streaming on Criterion.
Yep.
Get yourself the Blu-ray.
Yeah, the fucking Blu-ray is amazing.
Yeah, there's so much content on it. It's a really, really great disc. I believe one of the things I did not mention up top that I failed to, I believe that on that is the short film of this that was made.
Yes. We forgot to mention it. This movie was originally made by a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
There's a short film made by a 13-year-old, and when the producer wanted to license the rights, they had to buy him off for $100.
I love it. Yeah, but his what footage remains of that kid's project is on the Criterion disc.
Yep.
So yeah, cool. Picnic at Hanging Rock. It's a hell of a movie. What's next? I asked this like I don't know, but
next week on the 99 Cent Rattle, we're going to offset all that heady drama with the Dude Fest. See what I did there?
Yep.
Dude Fest. That is American Ninja.
That's great.
And then in 2 weeks, we're classing up the joint one more time.
Ooh, we're going even classier than Peter Weir.
Ingmar Bergman. I found a way to jam some Ingmar Bergman into that schedule, and we're going to watch his haunting, abstract, chiller Hour of the Wolf.
Ooh. And we got a guest for it.
We do.
We're looking forward to it. So yeah. Be back here in a week as we just slum it with the dude, Michael the Dude Dudikoff in American Ninja. And then
we really polar opposites here this month.
Come on back and get your pinkies up as we watch Ingmar Bergman's Hour of the Wolf.
Hell yeah.